Gracias. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Nandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Kunja Vihari Radha Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nittai Gauranga, Nittai Gauranga, Nittai Gauranga, Gaura Hari. Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana, Gaura Hari. Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana, Gaura Hari. Nittai Gaura Hari Ho, Nittai Gaura Hari Ho, Nittai Gaura Hari Ho, Nittai Gaura Hari Ho. Nittai Gaura Hari Ho, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Radha, Golokananda Radha, Golokananda Radha, Golokananda Sri Radhe, Radha, Golokananda Radha, Golokananda Radha, Golokananda Sri Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Sri Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Sri Radhe. Namo Vishwat Parahansa Paragraja Pachara Divine Grace A. Sivakianta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananda Kuti Vaishnava ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopakopinath Shama Sundara Kunda Giri Govardhan ki, Vrindavan Dham Mathura Dham ki, Jagannath Puri Dham ki, Mayapur Dham ki, Ganga Mai ki, Yamuna Mai ki, Tulsi Devi ki, Bhakti Devi ki, Bihar Mirdanga ki, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki, Jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki, Jai, Gaur Premanande, all glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're going to have a preamble before the verses number 16 and 17, which will be lightly touched on. There's very little in terms of commentary. And also, so many of these events that will happen later, I don't want to present them now because it's going to happen later. So as far as the whereabouts and the destiny of some personalities that appear in verse number 17. So the first thing is to read a little bit about the holy name. And for that I have some quotes by Srila Prabhupada, because we had a little bit of a longer kirtan this morning, and it was done in order to impress the necessity of the chanting of the holy name. So the holy names of God, the holy names of Krishna, the Mahamantra, Srila Prabhupada says in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 3, verse 31, the chanting of the holy name of the Lord is able to uproot even the reactions of the greatest sins. Therefore, the chanting of the Sankirtan movement is the most auspicious activity in the entire universe. I'll repeat this sentence. Therefore, the chanting of the Sankirtan movement is the most auspicious activity in the entire universe. Please try to understand this so that others will take it seriously. So we need to take it seriously. And we need to talk about that so that others will take it seriously. In a class by Amarendra Prabhu, I was a couple of years old, about the glories of the Holy Name, he mentions Prabhupada saying that 99% of our success in spiritual life is dependent on the chanting of the Holy Name. 99%. Which means that not just the chanting, but also the quantity and the quality. The quantity and the quality. We can definitely try to increase the number of rounds that we chant. 16 rounds is the bare minimum. So Srila Prabhupada talks about how eventually we will all be chanting day and night, incessantly. Kirtaniya sada hari. In order to be able to chant incessantly, of course, we have to develop some qualities, and we have to carefully cultivate our nature, our rascal nature of a member of the Kali Yuga, being very, very tolerant, very humble, giving respect to others and not expecting honor for ourselves. Very important. This is one of the things that Prabhupada emphasized. And we saw Bhakti Charu Maharaj this Sunday. Also, he was an emblem of the proper etiquette, how to treat each other respectfully and appreciate each other. The next quote is from the Srimad Bhagavatam 3:15-25, where Srila Prabhupada writes, "The highest realization of a spiritual value is to chant the holy name of God as prescribed for the age. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare." I'll repeat the first line. The highest realization of spiritual value is to chant the holy name of God, as has been prescribed for the age of Kali. The next one is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the next quote, Antya Lila, chapter 3, verse 60, where Srila Prabhupada writes, "The holy name has so much spiritual potency that it can deliver one from all sinful reactions and material entanglements. But utterance of the holy name will not be very soon fruitful if done to facilitate sinning." So that's a big offense, offense number 7. So we have to try to do it in the purest manner with the most absorption. And another one, this is the last one I'm going to read, there are several here. From the Nectar of Devotion, chapter 12, Prabhupada writes, "There is no difference between the holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself." We know that. We need to know theoretically, of course, but we also need to realize it, that there is no difference between Krishna and his name. And we also know that of the two, his name is more merciful. As such, the holy name is as perfect as the Lord himself in fullness, purity, and eternity. The holy name is not a material sound vibration, nor has it any material contamination. The holy name cannot, therefore, be chanted offenselessly by one who has failed to purify his senses. The same principle presented here. We have to work on ourselves. And the way to become purified is, of course, by the grace of Krishna, as we become more and more absorbed in the chanting of the holy name. The holy name cannot therefore be chanted offenselessly by one who has failed to purify his senses. In other words, materialistic senses cannot properly chant the holy name of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Again, this was from chapter 12 in the Nectar of Devotion. So I encourage everybody to listen to read about the holy name and to listen to classes where the speaker is actually glorifying the holy name. There are so many classes online. And somebody that's very, very enthusiastic is Amadendra Prabhu, and he has several classes, but there are so many classes. And there are so many books about the holy name. And the more we become absorbed in chanting of the holy name, the more advancement one is making. Of course, it's important to increase one's quantity and quality. About 14 or 15 years ago, there was a very nice seminar on chanting the holy name here in town, and some of us were there. And one of the things that I got from that seminar is that, there was a need to increase the number of rounds. It was so touching, and it was so cleansing, the seminar, that some of these things came up, the necessity for chanting extra rounds. And it's not hard to chant extra rounds. It's just a matter of gradually increasing, systematically. Not that one day we chant 4 and the next day we chant 64. That doesn't work. We have to be steady. In other words, we always have to have steady number of rounds that we chant, whether it's 16, whether it's 18, 20, 25, and gradually increase. And the increase can be done like by 2 rounds. For example, every few months, or every 6 months, or every year. And in the course of time, 5 years later, 10 years later, we're chanting quite a number of rounds. We're spending a long time in the day chanting our rounds. And that is most beneficial because we know that Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam are the very 3 important stages or steps or processes for us to become purified. So we hear the katha, we read about Krishna, we discuss Krishna's pastimes, we share the holy name with others. Hearing, chanting, we repeat the katha, we chant the holy name, and then that will enable us in the course of time to remember. So hearing, chanting, and remembering. The first 2, hearing and chanting, are essential. So I'm going to read something. That we were reading last night on Zoom. We were reading the Krishna book with a group of devotees. And something that really kind of impacted me, and I thought I would just share it with the group here today. And this is from the Krishna book, chapter 7, at the very beginning of chapter 7, where Srila Prabhupada writes, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is always full in with 6 opulences, namely complete wealth, complete strength, complete fame, complete knowledge, complete beauty, and complete renunciation. The Lord appears in different complete eternal forms of incarnation. Now, listen to this section here coming up. The conditioned soul has immense opportunity to hear about the transcendental activities of the Lord in these different incarnations. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Janma Karma Chame Divyam, 4.9, the pastimes and activities of the Lord are not material. They are beyond the material conception, and the conditioned soul can benefit by hearing such uncommon activities. Yeah, Prabhupada here is encouraging us to hear as much as we can. And then to chant. Chant is not just exclusively the holy name, it's also the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. In this way, we are glorifying the Supreme Lord, and we're becoming purified. The conditioned soul has a natural aptitude to hear something about other conditioned souls in the form of fiction, drama, and novel. That inclination to hear something about others may be utilized in hearing the pastimes of the Lord. When we hear about others, we probably hear about gossip or kind of interesting bits, other people, but we could be hearing about Krishna instead. And when we talk, we could be talking about others, but we could also be chanting the holy name. I read recently somebody who wrote, we have to be so engaged in cultivating our garden. In this case, is the garden of devotion, that we have no time to look elsewhere and see what other people are doing in their gardens. That's very important. We have to focus on how to improve ourselves, how to be connected ourselves more, how to chant more, how to hear more, how to serve more. This whole service, anyway, it's the most important service. How to deal with others, especially devotees, those that we have association with on a regular basis every day, and everybody else. Very important. Then one can immediately evolve to his transcendental nature by hearing. Krishna's pastimes are not only beautiful, they're also very pleasing to the mind. One of the things we were remarking last night in this discussion, this group, is that every time we read about Krishna, even though we may have read that chapter before several times, there's always new, there's always amazing, and there's always very, very sweet. And the more we read, and the more we chant, and the more we serve, the more we experience the sweetness that Krishna has in every single letter, vowel, syllable, sentence of the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the books by Srila Prabhupada. If someone takes advantage of hearing the pastimes of the Lord, the material contamination of dust accumulated in the heart due to long association with material nature can be immediately cleansed. Lord Chaitanya also instructed that simply by hearing the transcendental name of Lord Krishna, one can cleanse the heart of all material contamination. So we have to take stock of that, because it's being said to us over and over again, and we have to keep it in our hearts, in our consciousness, always remembering these instructions so that we can apply them. One thing is to hear lots of stories and lots of details about the stories and lots of information, but actually, unless they touch the heart, the value is limited. It has to be something that really touches our heart so that we can resolve to apply what we're learning in our spiritual lives. Otherwise, to accumulate a lot of information is maybe entertaining and interesting, but how much does it really help us in spiritual life? So we have to be very selective and know exactly how to proceed, how to read, how to chant, how to interact, how to communicate, how much to read, how much to chant, how much to interact, how much to communicate. And communicate in the sense that one of the things that Amarendra was saying in another class I listened to last night, if there is no chanting or hearing, there is Maya. Unless we hear and chant, there is Maya. Anything that is not hearing and chanting about the Supreme Lord is Maya. In other words, if we're not chanting, if we're not reading about the Supreme Lord's pastimes or discussing them with others, the rest of the time is employed in Maya. So that's a very strong statement, but it's real. It's real. It's a real thing. So let's apply all these instructions that so kindly and lovingly Srila Prabhupada and all the acharyas have given up for our own benefit. Whatever we do in devotional service, we're not doing it because we've been told to do it. We are doing it because we know that that's what we need to do. It's for our own self-interest. So we have to be sharp and be able to choose appropriately and act in appropriate ways and spend our time in the best manner possible. So now let's go to chapter 53, Canto 10, chapter 53, verse 16 in verse 17. Which are the verses for today? Dambha vidarbhadhipati samabhyatya vipujya cha nivesham asamudam kalpitanya niveshane Tangvai vidharvadhipati samapyetya vipujacha niveshayam asamuda kalpitanya niveshane tangvai vidharvadhipati samapyetya vipujacha niveshayam asamuda kalpitanya niveshane. Devotees, please. Samvai vidharvadipati samabhyetya vipujacha niveshaya asamuda kalpitaya niveshane samvai vidharvadhipati samabhyetya vipujacha niveshayam asamudam kalpitaya niveshane tangvai vidharvadhipati samabhyetya vipujacha niveshayam asamudam kalpitaya nivesane tangvai vidharvadhipati samabhyetya vipujacha niveshayam asamuda kalpitaya nivesane. Synonyms. Tam, him, King Damagosha. By, indeed, Vidarbha Adipatihi, the master of Vidarbha, Bhishmaka. Samabhyetya, going forward to meet. Abhipuja, honoring. Cha, and. Niveshayam asa, settled him. Muda, with pleasure. Kalpita, constructed. Anya, special. Niveshane, at a place of residence. Translation. Bhishmaka, the lord of Vidarbha, came out of the city and met King Damagosh, offering him tokens of respect. Bhishmaka then settled Damagosh in a residence especially constructed for the occasion. Let's read together. Bhishmaka, the lord of Vidarbha, came out of the city and met King Damagosh, offering him tokens of respect. Bhishmaka then settled Damagosh in a residence especially constructed for the occasion. Srila Jiva Goswami, there's only 2.5 lines of commentary by Srila Jiva Goswami. Bhishmaka welcomed him according to custom, Muda. Or Muda, joyfully, can refer to Rukmi being joyful, since he was the main person during the welcoming. So now they're coming all together in order to be able to celebrate the wedding of Rukmini with Rukmi. I'm sorry, with Shishupal, with Shishupal. And Rukmi, of course, the brother of Rukmini, is very intent on her marrying Shishupal. However, the family really want Rukmini to marry Krishna. And so I was looking at Gopal Champu, and the Gopal Champu has a lot of extremely charming pages on this chapter. It's chapter 16, Rukmini's marriage. And I thought I would share some of this, but I think we have not much time. But some of the main points. So here is, so a couple of messengers come to Nanda and Yashoda in Gokula, and they're telling him all that is happening while Krishna is away from Vrindavan. And his father is very intent on knowing exactly what's happening with Krishna, what he's doing, how he's faring, who his friends are, how he is being protected. He's very intent on making sure that his son is safe and that whatever he's doing is wonderful, because they're used in Vrindavan to seeing Krishna perform all kinds of wonderful activities. So this chapter 16 here in the Gopal Champu, which I recommend if you have time to read it later, is the conversation between Nanda Maharaj and these messengers who are telling him all about the marriage of Krishna with Rukmini. First of all, starting with the fact that Rukmini is being very bold and has written to Krishna asking for his hand in marriage, So here, Krishna is debating, well, what shall I do? That's the messenger telling the residents of Vrindavan. Krishna is thinking, what shall I do? I think that she cannot reveal her distress for me to give up her body. That's something that she's mentioned, that unless she gets to marry Krishna, she's going to give up her body. And Krishna is very concerned about that. But it says here, Jiva Goswami says, if she knows that I accept her, she will live. So he feels in a way obligated to saving her life. If she understands that I will not accept her, then she will give up her life. This constant nature of mine manifests at all times when someone shows anuraga for me, this intense love and devotion for me, Krishna says, I cannot reject them. Because of the extraordinary emotions in my heart caused by the wealth of prema in Vraj, I have no inclination for her. That's interesting to know. He's not inclined toward Rukmini. Why? Because of all this wealth of anuraga in Vraj. He's so filled with the love of the parents and the love of the gopis and the love of his friends and the love of his brother that he doesn't feel the need. But at the same time, he feels the obligation of respecting her anurag and protecting her against her own demise, but she would destroy herself if she doesn't get. So I found that there were some details in this chapter that were quite interesting. Most worshipable Krishna, because you attract all, that's Rukmini speaking, I have given up shyness. I immediately accept you as my husband. Shishupal cannot touch this body which has been offered to you. O lion among men, is the lioness body fit for the jackal? That's something we have seen in one verse previously in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Understanding her deep attachment, Krishna again thought, what should I do now, since I must prevent her from giving up her body? And this marriage will be an obstacle in going to Gokula. How should I marry her? He feels that it's going to get in the way of him being able to be in Gokula and have the association of the Vrajavasis. He again considered, anyway, I should kidnap her and later I'll think about what to do. O best of Brahmanas, please listen with attention. Since I heard from Narada that she's attracted to me, my mind has been thinking of her constantly. This is, Narada has been talking, the messengers have been talking, everybody in Gokula knows that Krishna is aspiring to marry Rukmini, unbeknownst to so many of the members of the enemies that are going to be present at the wedding, thinking that it's going to be Shishupal, the one who is going to marry Rukmini. And I don't think there is time for verse 17, so I'll stick with 17. Whoever is going to do verse 17, tomorrow is going to speak tomorrow, please. 17 will be the verse. Thinking in this way, with anxious heart, Krishna mounted his chariot with the Brahmana. That was the Brahmana that had delivered the letter. Understanding the time of the wedding, he arrived in one night in Kundina town, which is a place, it's part of Vidarbha, it's the capital of Vidarbha, in the middle of Vidarbha. He decided that he should not take permission from anyone. He's going to do whatever he thinks that he needs to do, what he must do. He did not even take Balaram because of fear and shame. Going in this way, he arrived in the evening. And what happens is that Rukmini is waiting for the messenger to come, for the Brahmana messenger to come and confirm that Krishna has accepted her, that Krishna is going to marry her. But it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. He's waiting and waiting. And she's becoming completely distraught with anxiety and with the fear that Krishna will not accept her. Arriving at Kundina, Krishna saw the joyful marriage arranged by the king according to the wishes of his son. He then understood that Shishupal had arrived, expecting to be the groom. He also saw, that's Krishna, the great respect that Bhishmaka gave to the groom as appropriate to the occasion, and so Jarasandha and others who had assembled to fix the proposal. We will see in verse 17 who are these personalities who come to support the marriage of Shishupal with Rukmini. And these are all enemies, fierce enemies of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. And then the messengers continue talking to Nanda Maharaj and says, actually, only Balaram followed. Nobody else followed Krishna. Hearing that his brother had arrived at Kundina, that's Krishna, had arrived at Kundina, to steal the bride, and that the enemies were ready to prevent any interruption to the marriage, Balaram was overcome with affection from being born in the ocean of affection in Vraj. Alarmed, he went to Kundina with an array of troops. Here is coming Balaram to protect Krishna. And that actually pacifies the mind of Nanda Maharaj. And now the residents of Vrindavan make a comment about Balaram and the Yarus, and they say, very, very pithy comment, Prema that appears from birth is Swabhav Siddha, the perfection of the loving, the Prema, according to the very nature of a person. Prema which arises incidentally is conditional. How can that artificial Prema be compared with natural Prema? He actually praising the Prema of Balaram, who is by nature and from birth, so to speak, in Swabhava Siddha, in the perfection of the Prema experience. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jiva Goswami ki jai, Sri Krishna Nam ki jai, Hari Nam Sankirtan ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna.
Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Angani Yasa Sakalem Priya Priti Manti Vasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami.
Yeah. Page 77, Srinama Kirtan by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Yasomati Nandana Prashapara Nagara Yasomati Nandana Prashapara Nagara Gokularan Janakana Gokularan Janakana Gopi Priyana Dana Madana Mana Ara Gopi Parana Dana Madana Mana Ara Kaliya Damanapi Dana Kaliya Damanapi Dana Amala Harinam Amiyavi Lasa Amala Harinam Amiyavi Lasa Vipina Pora Dara Navina Nagara Bara Vipina Porandara Navina Nagara Bara Vam Shivada Nasu Vasha Vam Shivada Nasu Vasa Rajajana Palana Surakula Nashana Rajajana Palana Surakula Nashana Nanda Godana Raka Wala Nanda Godana Raka Wala Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Sundara Nanda Gopala Sundara Nanda Gopala Yamuna Tatachara Gopi Vasana Hara Yamuna Tatachara Gopi Vasana Hara Rasara Kipa Kipa Maya Rasara Sika Kipa Maya Shirara Balaba Vrindavana Natabada Shirara Balaba Vrindavana Natabada Bhakta Vinod Ashraya Bhakta Vinod Ashraya Yasamati Nandana Rajabara Nagara Yasamati Nandana Rajabara Nagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Golokananda ki jai, Giriraj ki jai. Lord Krishna is beloved son of Yasoda, transcendental lover in the land of Braj, the delight of Gokula, known by the nickname Kana, the wealth of the lives of the gopis, attractor of Cupid, and the punisher of the serpent Kaliya. These pure holy names of Lord Hari, full of sweet nectarian pastimes. Glorious of Braj, ever youthful, the best of lovers, player of the flute, and excellent dresser, protector of the inhabitants of Braj, destroyer of demoniac dynasties, keeper and tender of Nanda's cows, giver of pleasure to cows, land, and spiritual senses, husband of the goddess of fortune, butter thief, and beautiful little coward boy of Nanda Maharaj, wanderer of the Yamuna riverbank, thief of the garments of the gopis, enjoyer of the mellows of the rasa dance, very merciful lover and beloved of Shri Radha, the great dance of Vrindavan, and the only shelter.
And a quick reminder is that we're coming up to the end of the month, so it's going to be last Friday here in Hillsborough, this Friday. And so we'll have Harinam on Friday evening from 6 to 8, and it's going to be at the corner of Margaret Street and Churton Street. So I'll put some announcements out. It's always it's like a little festival. Chaito Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipanam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smarane Nakala Etadrishita Vakriba Bhagavan Mamapi Dordaiva Midrishami Hajjani Nanuraga Trinada Pisunichena Tarora Pisuhishuna Amani Namanadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktir Hoitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishamai Bhavam Buddha Kripayata Vapada Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrashim Vachintaya Nayanam Galashudaraya Varanam Gadgadudaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Vabhukada Tavanama grahane bhavishyati. Yugayatam namishena chakshusha bravashayatam. Shunayatam jagat sarvam govindam virahename. Ashlishyavapadamritam banastumam. Adarshanam marma hatakarotuva. Yatatatava vidadatulam pato. Matprananatastu saeva napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of